The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
Okay, let's go.
Hey everybody, I am back and it's Ray Dustar here, and this is episode number 11 of the Deep Shallow Dive. We're gonna do another 712 episode today and try to keep it right around 10 minutes. Anyway, I'm gonna jump right into it. I'm starting to hit my stride with this. So I'm going to jump right into it. So in the last episode, we talked about really how easy it is in today's day and age for people to, create their own fake news. And I'm not even talking about, the mainstream media stuff. I'm talking about people creating their own fake news, leveraging the AI tools, leveraging graphics, coming up with and making up sources and creating something that really looks legit and it gets you to click on it. Obviously, clickbait is a real thing, and they've tied their Google AdSense account to that. And basically, people are creating salacious, tantalizing headlines and stories that get you to click on it. And if you start paying attention, you'll start seeing that more and more. And so, again, as we talked yesterday, that's a problem. So today I want to focus on another problem. And this is real news, actually. And what I want to talk about is just how different the coverage is on the same exact topic from the right to the left, and then even in the center. And so I'm going to use several examples of current news, and I'm going to point out just how different the coverage is. So really, depending on where you get your news from, you're getting that slant. I mean, seriously, give that some thought. Depending on where you get your news from, that's going to be the version that you think is the truth. And I think once I give you some of these examples, this concept will become more and more apparent. And again, this is something that I truly think as we move into the balance of this year and then definitely moving into the election, I want you guys to be aware of this and, looking at different sources, real sources actually, and seeing how they cover something. And I'll jump into some examples here now. Okay, so let's start with the Burning Man example from yesterday. So the Burning Man festival flooding sparks rumors, misinformation. That's the top line headline. So from the right, and this is the Washington Examiner, it says, Burning Man lifts lockdowns as thousands of concert goers begin exodus from Nevada desert. Okay, here is from the left, the Associated Press. Burning Man flooding triggers false claims of Ebola breakout, national emergency, in quotes. Wow, that's significantly different. And then here's from the center from Newsweek. It says, is FEMA at Burning Man? Virus outbreak conspiracy theory spreads online. Wow, that's surprising. That's from the center. That sounds like far left to me. But think about that. That is the same event, and you've got three completely different coverage, headlines, and articles. I went through and read each of those articles, and they basically reinforce, the headline. So think about how drastically different that coverage was. So if you're somebody gets your news from that Associated Press, which is sort of left, center, you're going to be like, oh my God, this is a national emergency. If you're somebody on the right that reads the Washington Examiner every morning, you're going to think, okay, interesting. Looks like a bunch of people got stuck. Burning Man's goofy anyway. Serves them right. No, I'm just kidding. And then if you're in the center, although, God, this one does not feel center from Newsweek, where it says, is FEMA at Burning Man, virus outbreak, conspiracy theory spreads online. I will say when I looked on YouTube and then TikTok and even in some Instagram reels, there was a lot of stuff that talked about, this is the beginning of another outbreak. This is the beginning of, COVID-24, things like that. But again, I attribute a lot of that as people trying to get views. They're trying to get eyeballs. They're trying to get something and create something to go viral. All right, this second example is a little more subtle, but I wanted to share it because it also hits on something that I'm going to cover over the next week or so. But it's about First Lady Jill Biden and getting COVID. So here is the headline from Reuters, which again, Reuters is considered center. It says, Jill Biden positive for COVID. President Biden tests negative, White House says. Okay, that's pretty center, no problem. From the right, this is Fox News Online. First Lady Jill Biden tests positive for COVID-19 for second time. I feel like the for second time was kind of like the dig there. And then from the left, it just says, and this is ABC News Online, it says, First Lady Jill Biden tests positive for COVID. Pretty factual. Now, those three weren't that different in their coverage, maybe a slight nuance with the way Fox News said for the second time. But again, I just want to reinforce the point that depending on where you're getting your information from, there's going to be a sometimes very slight slant and then sometimes a much more aggressive slant, as was the case in the previous Burning Man example. By the way, quick side note, I know COVID is firing up, and I am researching this because I am going to cover it. And as a tease / lead-in, I will say I do find it incredibly interesting that basically for the past 2 years, we've really heard nothing about COVID. And now, as we get into the balance of 2023 leading into 2024, again, I'm going to prove this, but I do find it interesting that you're starting to see it more and more. First Lady Jill Biden, Whoopi Goldberg from The View, and then the co-host said it was because of COVID. I don't watch The View, by the way. That is just what I saw in a highlight. Again, for the record, I do not watch The View. Okay, here's another one. Actually, let's stick with the COVID theme. So, top line headline: as COVID-19 cases rise, experts advise some to mask up again. Let's take a look at how this is being covered. So, from the center, and in this case, they're using CNBC as the center. It says, when to wear masks as COVID cases rise, new variants emerge in the US. Okay. From the left, and this is CNN, it says, what precautions should people take for Labor Day and back to school? A doctor explains. And then from the right, no lockdowns ever again. 2024 candidates push back against future COVID-19 lockdowns / mandates. And that's from the Daily Signal, which is kind of considered definitely on the farther right side. Wow, this was a great example, actually. And really, I'm going to key in on the explanation from the left from CNN versus the Daily Signal. So the thing I found interesting in terms of the way CNN covered it is they said a doctor explains. So obviously they want to give the credibility that this is coming from a doctor and the precautions that you should take for new variants or anything related. This is being explained to you by a doctor. And so therefore that should give it credibility. That's interesting. And that definitely feels like the 2020 playbook. And then on the right, these guys, they took it to another level and they took the issue and then layered on top of it, the candidates and the election, or at least the Republican side of things. So that was a really interesting example because, wow, that was pretty different. I think the Burning Man one was super different. That one was really different. Let me see if I can find another good one. Here's a good one. Let's go with our boy Elon Musk. So here is the top line headline. Musk threatens to sue Anti-Defamation League over ad revenue decline. So basically, he is saying to this Anti-Defamation League to stop accusing him of being anti-Semitic. And so that's what this is about. And those accusations have led to a decline in the revenue. I think they're going to focus on X.com. The artist formerly known as Twitter, who I am not a fan of that rebrand. All right, so here's the coverage. From the left, and this is CNN Business, it says, Elon Musk blames the ADL for 60% ad sales decline at X, threatens to sue. Here it is from the center, and this is the Jerusalem Post, although I feel like that's a little bit of a conflict of interest for the Jerusalem Post to be talking about an anti-Semitic issue. We might have to just disregard this take. Anywho, regardless, their headline is Elon Musk vows defamation lawsuit against ADL, the irony. That kind of doesn't even make much sense. All right, let's go to the right, and this is the New York Post. Ex-boss Elon Musk vows to sue ADL for $22 billion for falsely accusing it and me of being anti-Semitic, quote unquote. Okay, let's focus on the left versus the right on this one. And here's what I find interesting. They're both using numbers and percentages to really make a dramatic point. And that is, on the left, it says, Elon Musk blames the ADL for 60% ad sales decline. That's a big number. So to me, that was done on purpose because they want everyone to know, wow, ad sales at X are down 60%. That's a big number. That number was put on purpose. Don't think there wasn't a method to that. And then by the same token, from the right, it says ex-boss. I think that's interesting. They use the word boss. So that's kind of asserting a little bit of dominance for him. Vows to sue ADL for $22 billion. So again, that's a big number. So they put the $22 billion in because that catches your attention and you're like, holy mackerel, that's a huge number. I think he only paid $44 billion to buy Twitter only, right? So now he's suing these guys for $22 billion. He might make half his money back. But anyway, my point is these stories and the headlines and, this stuff is not haphazard. This stuff is very well thought out and it's calculated. These are written this way with an agenda. Hopefully, we covered 4 examples and I could keep going, but I'm not going to because again, I just wanted to start this conversation because we're going to come back to this several times and help you understand that, it's different coverage from different outlets. And quite frankly, that literally could end up being different stories overall. As you saw with all of these examples, that's a dramatically different take on the same topic. And so depending on where you're consuming your information, that's probably the take you're going to get. Again, in this example, if you take CNN Business for gospel, you'd be like, oh my God, Twitter or X, it's 60% ad sales down. They're going out of business. They're going to go bankrupt. And then the flip side, if the New York Post was the only place you looked at this story, you'd think, oh my God, he's suing these guys for $22 billion. Wow, he's going to get paid on this. Anyway, I hope these were enlightening. And if anything, all I wanted was to start this conversation about, media bias and how the same information can be presented differently, can be consumed differently, and therefore we can think about issues differently simply based on where we're getting that information from. It's a challenging situation. It really is. And it's something that I'm going to continue to talk about because my goal would be to get to a point where, whether it's partially through this podcast or through something else, we come up with the truth and we collectively decide on, what feels and sounds right about the respective issues, obviously potentially much bigger ones than the 4 that we covered today. All right, everybody, that's it for today. All right, we're coming up on 15 minutes on this one. So this will fall under a deep shallow dive. I've kind of made that unofficial rule with myself. If it's over 15 minutes, I'll actually lump it as a DSD versus the 712 or the new segment, the bonus segments. I'm actually going to stick with that. I've tested it a few times and I got a really good response. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your day or your evening. If you don't remember anything from this podcast today, remember one thing, and that is to call a spade a spade. All right, talk to you soon.
This episode was brought to you by Boost Liquid Vitamins. Wake up, take your Boost, start your day. Drink your vitamins, build your immune system with Boost. Available on Boost.com.